Morning glory and evening grace, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt in Studio West. So pleased to welcome my governor, Governor Glenn Youngkin of the Commonwealth of Virginia, back to the program. How are you, Governor? It's been a while since I talked to you.
Hugh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Your show is awesome, and Virginia is roaring.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
We've just seen so many good things going on, so it's been great.
Now, Governor, I tell people out in California, where I'm teaching for 4 months, that you are a parent governor, that you respect school districts and superintendents and principals and even teachers' unions, but you ran on and you have governed with parents in mind. Is that a fair description?
Absolutely. Every day we see parents expressing their views, and I go to work every day for them. And, you know, Hugh, one of the big things that happened recently is we signed a bill to remove dangerous food dyes that came from parents. There was this grassroots movement from moms and dads to get dangerous food dyes out of their children's food at school. And I signed a bill last week to remove food dyes from 4 dangerous categories from our kids' food in school.
Now, I'm sure you saw the nation's report card, and our numbers in 4th and 8th grade on reading and math are horrific. And I believe in the next 10 to 20 years, the 2 issues that will dominate the American political scene are our public education system, K through college, and China. Do you agree with that general assessment that those are the 2 bigs?
Yeah, I also add energy and power to it, but I do believe at the top of the list is education. And we have got to get moving. And one of the things that I have been so focused on in Virginia, Hugh, is raising expectations of excellence, bringing transparency to schools. How are the schools performing? We've overhauled our entire accreditation process. And then making sure we are going to work to, yes, support the schools that aren't doing well, to get them up so that all students can receive a quality education. And simultaneously introducing multiple pathways for parents to have a choice about the education that's best for their child, whether that's in one of our lab schools that work very much like charter schools in Virginia, whether that's to go right through and get an industry-recognized credential and go right to work, or whether that is to hopefully, as I just introduced yesterday, avail themselves of a Virginia Opportunity Scholarship that would allow families that can't afford to go to private schools an opportunity to tap into a scholarship. Now, I have to get that approved by a General Assembly that's been fighting me on this, but come on, let's be serious. All parents should have a right to choose the best path for their child's education.
No, I agree with that. Now, Governor, I called you up, or asked Danielle to call you up, because you're not in the First Circuit. You're in the Fourth Circuit. The First Circuit Federal Court of Appeals covers Maine and Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Rhode Island, Puerto Rico. But a decision came down last month called Foote versus Ludlow School Committee. Are you familiar with that, Governor?
I'm not. Why don't you tell me about it?
Well, I will. I'll pretend I'm a governor's staffer for a moment. An 11-year-old goes to school. The school librarian asks all the 11-year-olds to do an autobiographical sketch of themselves. Then she begins to receive unsolicited LGBTQ information on her school computer. Then she tells her teacher she's attracted to girls. The teacher calls the parents. The parents say, "Thank you very much." And they bring the hammer down in form of an email. They say to the teacher and to the principal and the superintendent, "Do not get involved. We are going to handle this. We're going to take care of our child." And the long and the short of it is that the school then commences a conspiracy of silence. The young lady begins to go by a different name. They indulge that choice at the school. They don't tell the parents. They do everything they can not to inform the parents. When the parents find out, because they sent a very detailed email to everyone, they are mad and they sue, and the district court dismisses their lawsuit, and the First Circuit upheld the dismissal in a case that I simply call mutiny. You're not a lawyer. I am. I teach con law. This is settled law. Parents control the education of their children. It is settled law, and they just threw it overboard. And I'm kind of shocked, Governor, because all of my grandchildren live in your state, and they're all going to go to your schools. And I do not want the Virginia public schools taking over the decisions affecting my grandchildren. Are you with me on that?
Yeah, 100%. And in fact, when I first came in, I signed an executive order that reinforced the fact that parents have a fundamental right to make decisions for their children's upbringing, their education, and their care. And therefore, in my policy that I then sent out later, that parents must be told about any of these most critical discussions that are going on with their children. Parents have the seat at the head of the table. Yes, there are others at the table, quality teachers and other advisors, but parents must have full dominion over what happens in their children's lives. And it is wrong for a school system, wrong for a teacher, wrong for a principal, wrong for a counselor to take any role other than one that is approved by a parent.
So we are in agreement on this. I am curious, Jason Myers is your great attorney general. Will you talk to him about filing an amicus brief when the petition for certiorari goes up? Because I would like all the states to demand that the Supreme Court reverse this about as fast as this thing can be reversed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Jason has stood strong on this issue with me through our entire term together, as has our Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Earl-Sears. And by the way, my goal for this year, or at least one of many, is that Jason Myers is reelected as our Attorney General this fall, and our great Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Earl-Sears, is elected the next governor of Virginia, since I can't serve another term.
Yeah, my only frustration with the Commonwealth is that they have this one-term limit. It really does make it hard for anyone to make fundamental change, but you've done a good job of that. One of that in bringing sanity to the higher education system. I know you had some meetings scheduled today with various officials in the University of Virginia system. Are you satisfied with where the University of Virginia system is? And it includes quite a lot of great universities. Are they headed in the right direction away from what I'll call the Columbia direction?
Yeah, well, there's been a big step taken over the course of the last couple of weeks at University of Virginia and now at a number of our other universities. And the rest of them will take this up, which is dismantling their DEI infrastructure within the university. And listen, Hugh, you know this, but others might not. It takes 3 years as a governor to get more majority control, and in this case, supermajority control over our boards of visitors in order to drive this agenda. And so it was really important that now that we have supermajority on these boards, that we are, in fact, first complying with President Trump's executive order to make sure that there aren't illegal discrimination practices going on at these schools, and as a result, to dismantle the DEI offices in each one of them.
I have been very pleased to see that you and President Trump are working together on a number of issues. Generally speaking, is it more cooperation than friction? I'm unaware of any friction, actually, between you and the president.
No, it's been an incredibly productive relationship. And to tell you, as a governor who spent my first 3 years driving Virginia to really great heights. I mean, we really have become the top state in America for business. We've had record employment. We've run literally 4 now straight years of a surplus, over $10 billion of surpluses over the last 4 years. We've been able to cut taxes and provide tax relief of $9 billion with that $10 billion. And so we've done great in Virginia, but I've been fighting headwinds the whole time until January 20th. And Hugh, what has happened with President Trump's arrival is we now have a friend in the White House who is working with us on a day-to-day basis. And it's across every cabinet secretary. I'll tell you, we've had one of the great collaborations on arresting and deporting illegal immigrants who are violent members of gangs. And you combine his executive order that has named the violent gangs international terrorist organizations, along with the collaboration that I have had at the FBI, Homeland Security, and ICE, along with the ability for me to now deputize our state police and our Department of Corrections personnel. And we have been running a month-long arrest surge now where we are going after the violent, illegal immigrants and sending them out of here. And it has been the most productive collaboration I've seen with the federal government as governor of Virginia in the last 4 years, and it is night and day. And so I want to thank the administration for being great partners and allowing us to do so much more than we could do on our own.
You know, Governor Youngkin, you, like President Trump, came into politics laterally. You did not spend your life going from assemblyman to state senate to Congress to Senate. You came in from the private sector, just like President Trump did. Have you been amazed at the inefficiency of government? And sometimes he seems almost stunned at how bad it is. But have you found that to be the case?
I have found that I can get a lot done as governor, but it requires me to bring so many people together and then drive. And that's why we've been able to accomplish so much. And you look at what President Trump is doing now, which is exactly that. Set ambitious objectives and make sure that everyone is delivering on what they say they're going to do. And it is just that. You have to continue to drive results.
Now,
I'll also say that the legislative process oftentimes ends up with compromise that unfortunately compromises away the ultimate objective. And again, that's why I think we've been successful in Virginia, that while we have been able to reach some good compromises on budgets and other things with a General Assembly that's controlled by Democrats, we've also been able to use executive orders effectively, and we have driven tremendous outcomes for Virginians by making sure that everyone understands that common sense prevails.
Now, Governor, I've been asked by a lot of people as well, because I've been around Republican politics since 1976. Who is running the party now? It's obviously Donald Trump, but there's a bench, and that bench is obviously Vice President Vance and you and Governor Kemp and Governor Ducey, who's retired right now but doing good stuff. A lot of good governors. You got Elise Stefanik at the UN. You've got Tom Cotton in the Senate and Josh Hawley in the Senate. Are you an optimist about the Republicans becoming a secure majority party as the Democrats spin off further and further to the left?
Yeah, I absolutely am. I'm first really, really comforted by the deep bench of talent that you just went through, and there are many others, but also by the fact that the Republican Party is focused on common sense outcomes, and that is a big majority of our nation. And think about the folks that have come into the Republican Party over the course of the last really 8 years, as we have reached into new groups of folks that had not historically voted for Republicans and helped them really come to grips with the fact that the Republican philosophy is not just winning philosophy, it's common sense, and it delivers tremendous outcomes for them.
Now,
We now are close to winning. We're really close to winning the Hispanic vote across the entire country, the immigrant vote. We've seen more young people come back to the Republican Party, and we're seeing the black vote really turn and really look for those common sense answers out of Republican leaders.
Sometimes governors don't know much about national security, just because, I mean, you're in Kansas. Maybe you will if you're in South Dakota and you've got Minutemen silos, but you're not generally. You, however, have got the biggest shipyard in America where we build our carriers and our boomers and all sorts of other stuff. If the president's plan for shipbuilding is embraced by the Congress, and I think it will be, Virginia will prosper. But will you have the people necessary to weld the bolts and wire the ships and prepare the electronics that are necessary to get them to sea?
Well, first of all, I hope that his view for shipbuilding does prevail, because we need to be able to build many more ships, because we have to compete with the Chinese machine that is cranking out a Navy that is now starting to eclipse ours. And so we have to build more. Newport News Shipbuilding is spectacularly talented, but they have to be able to increase their capacity. And one of the great constraints is talent. We've been running a massive talent effort in order to increase the numbers of welders and electricians and programmers and all of the team members necessary to build submarines and aircraft carriers, which is what we predominantly build at Newport News Shipbuilding. And I have to say, it has really increased the available talent. We've worked through our community college. We're also working so that Virginia students can move straight from high school into the workforce. And while I'm a big proponent of college, it's not for everybody. And to have a pipeline where folks can go and learn how to be one of these great tradesmen and on a path to earn $100,000, $150,000 a year, that is an extraordinary living, and we need you. And so if you have an ambition to do any of these great national security-driven occupations, we need you in Virginia, and we would love to have you move here. You know, Hugh, last year we had, for the first time in over a decade, more people move to Virginia on a net basis than move away to the other 49 states. That was a huge flip of Virginia becoming a destination where people want to build their lives.
I didn't know that. I have been reading about Virginia. You've got off-year elections. Obviously, Lieutenant Governor Sears is running to replace you, and she'll be on a lot, and I'm going to help her as much as I can. But there's a federal workforce in Northern Virginia that's not very happy with Donald Trump right now. Do you think that headwind can be overcome by Lieutenant Governor Sears?
Well, it begins with making sure that federal workers in Virginia understand that there are lots of jobs here. And I have continually expressed the fact that we need to get at the fiscal discipline issues in Washington, and therefore the actions that President Trump has taken in order to restore fiscal discipline are needed. And yes, there are many federal workers in Virginia who may or will have real job disruption or job loss. We have 259,000 open jobs today, right today, that are open for people to take across the Commonwealth. And we are working to make sure that any worker who has their career interrupted as a result of a federal government job loss has a pathway into these great jobs. The key to all of this is driving an economy that's creating opportunity so that we can meet any kind of dislocation with strength and confidence. And that's exactly what Virginia is doing. That's what Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears has helped me build. That's what she will continue. And I think that's what's going to allow Virginia to keep winning.
Two last questions, Governor Youngkin. Your friend and mine, Doug Burgum, was on the show last week. You knew him as Governor Burgum. I know him as Secretary Burgum, talking about our baseload capacity for energy, and that we don't win the AI race with China, we don't win the supercomputing race, we don't win the space race unless we have baseload capacity, meaning small modular reactors, coal-fired plants that are clean, all sorts of kinds of energy. Is Virginia doing what it needs to do to have the baseload rise so that it can power these industries?
This was one of the top challenges that I challenged not just Virginia, but myself in order to drive forward now 2.5 years ago. We have to have a step function increase, literally a doubling of the power generation in Virginia to meet the opportunities in front of us. And small modular reactors has been a big cornerstone of mine. And so I've been, again, incredibly pleased with the cooperation that's coming from, yes, Secretary Burgum, but also Secretary Chris Wright at the Department of Energy. They have been doing roundtables with industry, with me and a few other governors in order to drive this path forward of commercially operating the first small modular reactor. And I hope that's in Virginia. We have large data center and AI opportunities to pair with them, and we're pushing hard to make that happen in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I believe this is a national security issue, and yes, this is an economic development opportunity for us.
It is,
that's why we're pushing so hard.
That brings me to China. It's really a penultimate question. How much time do you spend thinking about what Xi Jinping is doing and what the Chinese Communist Party is doing in the United States and abroad? I mean, you're governor, but you got national security portfolio because you're the governor of Virginia. So do you spend a lot of time thinking about those people?
Hugh, we do, because we do have this footprint that is the largest naval base in the world. It is Quantico. It is the Pentagon. It is the national security infrastructure, plus every branch of the military represented, like Langley Air Force Base, which was being invaded by drones over the course of the last 3 years repeatedly. And so, yes, Chinese surveillance, incursion, and, of course, their consistent effort to not just compete with the United States, but to dominate the world at the U.S. expense is clearly top of mind. We have passed legislation that prohibits bad actors like China from buying our agriculture land and from buying land around our national security and really sensitive infrastructure sites. We have continued to go to work to try to pass legislation to stop drones from coming over our military bases and, again, our national security sites, which we signed this week. And so we're going to work every day to try to keep our Virginians safe, our Americans safe, from what China has demonstrated is a constant effort to try to dominate the world at our expense.
Okay, very last question is about what does Glenn Youngkin plan to do when the term ends next year? You can take on Mark Warner for the Senate in 2026. You can start a parents pack and take your innovations and your resolve to be for parents national. Do you have a plan yet, Governor?
I have a plan to represent Virginia with everything I have until January of 2026. And Hugh, I think one of the great opportunities is to keep driving our agenda, which has proven to be incredibly successful in the Commonwealth. Economic development beyond anybody's dreams, surplus after surplus, crime down at lowest levels they've seen in decades. And what we have really appreciated is that our education agenda is really starting to take root and take off. I've got to finish strong Then we also have to make sure that Winsome Earl Sears is our next governor and Jason Miyares is our next attorney general. And then we'll run through the tape, and then I'll have a chance to think about what we do next. I think one of the big mistakes is when people begin to look past their tenure and they get distracted, and I'm not going to be distracted. We're going to finish strong.
All right, then, Governor, we'll talk in February of next year, and we'll find out what the plan is. I do like that parents pack because you have been for parents, and we are in a bad situation with the First Circuit here. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for giving it to me. Go back and govern better. I'll see you in May or so.
You, God bless you. Thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you, Governor.